Johnny Hancock, have you broken completely with the gentleman who used to live in Railway Cutting, East Cheam? You've done cabaret recently, and now you're doing a musical, despite the fact that BBC's repeating some of the cream of the Hancock half-hour television shows.
Yeah.
Do you want to break completely from this character you established?
Well, I never did, and I never can. This is all I can do. You see, I'm not a sort of, unfortunately, a Peter Sellers chameleon boy. I can go around the British Isles in dialect in about 5 lines, you know. I had sustained character all that. Well, this is me, in a sort of rather overdone way that everybody sees.
But I remember in some of the shows, the scriptwriters seem to have written in situations where you could show versatility of accent. For example, you did a Charles Lawton, I remember.
And they were very careful to keep it down to one-liners. That was a great secret of it.
Just quick sketches.
Straight in and out, they knew I'd never hold it.
Do you regret now that you broke the partnership with Galton and Simpson?
No, because we, I think, as a matter of fact, it's probably been a very good thing for all of us. After all, we worked for about 10 years together, and we mutually learned. There's a lot of conversation, there's some press reports about the writer does it all, or the comedian does it all. This is all nonsense, because really it's a thing that happens gradually. One of the main things, of course, is to share a similar sense of humour, which we did from the start. And, as I say, we worked together, and I think fairly successfully for this long time, and they knew, they suggested all sorts of things to me, and I said, I can't do that, and then they'd say, yeah, go try anyway, and I'd try, and sometimes it would come off, you see. So we threatened each other. It's a communal thing. You can't say, I mean, you cannot say a comedian's not funny without a script. Sometimes out of desperation he has to do something, you know, or that a script plays itself. This is not true.
I remember you saying not so long ago that you think bad times perhaps are essential for performers like yourself.
What do they seem to be unavoidable, essential. They'll get you some way.
What did you mean that you felt they were essential for character?
I should think probably maybe for your own maturity, you know. If you can ride out, this is where resilience becomes more important than talent. That's the question. And I think if you can emerge with, you know, from that with a little more knowledge and also a pretty good rethink about what and why things went wrong. I think it happens to any artist. I mean, look at a man like Sinatra. He was flat on the floor and begged for this part. May I mention From Here to Eternity? Really begged for the part. Was paid, by his terms now, real peanuts. But now, the empire.
Yes.
But he had a tough time.
Remember when you made what amounted to a comeback in many ways on the Palladium show? You were very warmly received. But before then, had you felt any cynicism for your public?
No, I tell you this, the most disappointing thing to me about the public, see, is to disappoint them. I mean this very sincerely, is that for people to say, oh dear, you know, it's not right, it's a terrible disappointment to me, really. But one must experiment and go on. British public is essentially loyal to an artist, but change, oh brother, is that difficult?
I gather you're an essentially nervous performer, like most artists.
Much less now.
Much less now?
Yeah, since a couple of years ago, I think.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know. If I'm in trouble, I always believe in jumping in the deep end and say, well, go on, you've thrown everything else, throw the rest. See, unfortunately, I'm more inclined to get needled than depressed by things. I'm not needled with anybody else, but sometimes, but mainly with myself. It's so to say, all right, wait, you know. So just wait. I may be wrong again, you know.
This is your own kind of therapy.
Yes, I think there's some things that are inexplicable. There's fortunately no formula for comedy. You can't say, we'll sing a song here, and I've heard this said, mind you, and I'll put a piece of pathos in there. God knows what that means. Put a bit of pathos. And a cake.
Haven't you felt, modesty aside, watching some of your shows, that there is a pathos here?
Well, This is a difficult question for me to answer, and one that I certainly wouldn't want to make any personal research into, because otherwise, Danny Kaye made a marvellous remark about this once. You know, he opened, he was very nervous, because at the Palladium he hadn't played this place before, and he knows the immense success that he had. Somebody said, "How beautifully you use your hands." He said, the next night I went on and they were like this, they were like rigid, like hams. He said, I couldn't do anything with them. And he couldn't forget it, and they all moved like this, and it was all wrong, you see, until eventually he forgot this unfortunate compliment and went about his business normally, and of course they all started to work again.
There's a very real danger then for a performer if he becomes self-conscious.
I don't think so, but I don't think... people will say to you, for instance, in a photograph session, do the face when you do so-and-so. I honestly don't know what they mean, because it either comes from the way you are. You should be so immersed in the scene. You don't know about faces, you don't pull faces. It either happens or it doesn't happen. If you're thinking the thing, it's method, kid. It's like a method, you know. If you're thinking the thing, it comes out. It's as simple as that. As difficult as that.
I remember not so long ago, you were setting yourself a fairly elevated reading course for enjoyment or self-instruction.
Yeah, I've set myself an elevated living course now instead.
You've dropped the books, have you?
I don't mean elevated in terms of spending a lot of money, but yeah, well, no, occasionally.
I remember not long after reading this, I saw Hancock on the television screen, alone in his bed sitting room, trying to...
Can I
read.
bend down my other camera if I go down here? Ashtray. This is one.
There we are. Meanwhile, back in the bed sitting room with Anthony Aloysius Hancock, you were reading in this episode Bertrand Russell.
Yes.
I wondered perhaps if this expressed something more than the characters.
Well, I don't know.
New, yeah.
Now, what actually happened, I think, really, was that until I was about 30, I don't think I'd ever read anything more advanced than Chick's Own or something. So I thought something should be done about this, and I became very interested in reading generally, and then probably got a bit pear-shaped about it for a bit, and a bit obscure, and eventually decided, at least from my point of view, that allying this to comedy, and to practicing comedy, shall we say, that it's more important to live than to read, or preferably to do both, with the emphasis on the living.
You seem to be something of a philosopher. Do you think most comedians are?
I think so. I think they all have something to say. Some state it blatantly, some do it in different ways. I mean, I'm sure Charlie Chaplin didn't realize what social changes he was making when he did City Lights, for instance. Since it's something easy.
If a comedian, in fact, wants to make a social comment, wants to change society,
I tell you what, I feel very deeply that a comedian is very much involved in the faults of other people, faults or idiosyncrasies or eccentricities of other people, but essentially in his own, too. You can't sort of throw the stones. I mean, from what point of perfection are you speaking to make someone look ludicrous? But the odd thing is, let's take an example. The comic parson, for instance, that used to be a lot of comic parsons on English Music Hall. Tanks used to arrive on a lady's bicycle and all this sort of business and get off, and delivered in this funny tone. Now, this was funny to people because it was recognizable, therefore because it is true. And it's based on truth, and I suppose you can say that in this very brilliantly new brought-up word, which I think was used some long time ago, satire. I suppose this is satire in its own way. And in what I would term a full comedian, such as Chaplin, it is all there, the broadness, the sadness, the lot.